Rain poured from the heavens in unbroken sheets, drumming relentlessly against the trench wall and running down the mud like a bleeding wound. Joma pressed his back against the sodden planks, every breath tasting of iron, rot, and the faint reek of bodies that were yet to be buried. Their cries had faded hours ago, leaving only the groans of the wounded and the distant echoing scrape of bone against armor. The Devarian banners hung limp, their crimson dye drowned to black and soaked to the core. They had once flown proud and unburdened, sigils of a kingdom that promised honor, bread, and coin. Yet now, in the darkest of nights, they were just blood-soaked rags waiting to be claimed. Joma glanced down the line, 3 men and a boy, all hollow-eyed, caked in filth, and staring at nothing, the only souls that remained of his company. Beyond the trench's border, the world writhed with corpses that would not yield. The dead marched in silence, their sockets glimmering with the pale flicker of whatever cursed being commanded them. They moved without hurry, without rage, without mercy. Arrows had pierced them, spears had shattered against them, yet they still trudged on, endless and unwavering. Joma coughed, tasting his own metallic blood as he washed it around his mouth with his tongue. His ribs were broken, his body was bruised, his every sense filled with pain. He knew these feelings all too well, and the wicked sensations had become all too familiar. The company's healer was gone, dragged screaming into the fog when the barricade first fell. The archers had vanished with him, their longbows splintered, their throats torn out before they let loose a second volley. He had battled beside friends, allies, and companions, but now all that remained beside him were empty husks waiting to join the enemy's ranks. Jorma forced his eyes shut for a moment, seeing his sister's face. Desiree standing at the cottage door, hair loose, hands on her hips, scolding him for enlisting. "The crown would never bleed for you," she pleaded. "You'll be meat in their wars, nothing more," she cried. He pondered on her words for a moment, sitting beneath the piercing rain and wallowing in the unrelenting pain coursing through his body. And he now knew. She had always been right. A guttural cry snapped him back. Young Thomas, the boy, scrambling to reload a crossbow with trembling hands too small for the task. He struggled to lock the bolt in place, the bowstring's resistance too strong, and his stick-thin arms too weak under the pressure. Joma wanted to tell him to stop, to save his strength, but the words lodged in his throat. What comfort could he offer when his own soul trembled? The ground shuddered as the first of the dead slid into the trench with a mighty thud. A crushing mass of bones and steel followed, their skeletal bodies slamming into the wet mud, shooting an echo along the line. Lumbering to their feet, they did not roar or rage, only reached out with clawed fingers, eyes burning with a sickly hunger. Mikhail, one of the last men, swung his blade in desperation, cutting a skull in half. The corpse staggered, stumbled, and slammed against the trench wall before straightening and leaping upon him with silent hunger. In that moment, Joma knew it was over. The end came for not just his defenses, not just for this battle, but the kingdom itself. All its banners, all its songs, all its people were finished. Joma leaned his head back against the mud wall, rain coursing down his cheeks like tears he no longer had the strength to shed. Tamas screamed, steel clanged, and bones cracked. Joma closed his eyes and welcomed the dark, waiting for his turn. Yet, as moments passed by slowly, the end he wished for never came. Amongst the rain and mud, an almighty blast erupted from above, and a searing heat suddenly scorched the misted air above him as the sickening wails of the dead erupted into symphony.